Hey, what is going on, everyone? Happy Monday. Hope everyone is having a great start to the week. Welcome to another edition of Titan Talk. Isiah here and Kilgoon joining us, and we've got kind of a lighter show today, but a big thing happening in the Smite 2 Battleground. Open Beta 7 went live this morning.
Yeah, it's a patch day Monday, and on patch days, we don't usually plan too much of a show because there's always a chance that we just can't do the show because we have to fix things or, that we just don't know what the day is going to take us. So we don't plan too much of a show for patch days. But yeah, OB7's out today. Lots of cool stuff in the update.
Absolutely. If been seeing some people play Cerberus. It's been really cool.
Cerberus, the whole big first part of the major item rebalancing. There's
the new Assault Dev Test map update.
The new Assault Dev Test map update.
New Wandering Market collection.
There's Supporter Shop. There's, I don't know, there's probably 10 other things.
Yeah, I know.
HUD editor improvements. And there were two. There's one thing that did not make patch notes.
Yes.
That I wanted to quickly read out. We changed when you level up how you gain HP and mana. So instead of just getting a flat heal, it's now tied to the percentage of health that you are at.
Yeah.
So when you level up in game, your HP and mana now preserves your total percentage as a flat heal to your current HP and mana. So if you were at 50 out of 100 hit points, and you previously would have gained 20 max hit points on level up, which would have taken you to 70 out of 120. Instead, now you're at 60 out of 120, which preserves that 50%.
Right.
This was something that we were testing internally. We were happy with, but we forgot that it was going to be in this update, so we forgot to put on the notes. So has more of an impact on the early game, but we will get that added to the notes.
Yeah, mainly addressing the, it's like your early game, you're fighting over wave, you're about to get a kill, and the enemy dings up to level 2 and they get a heal, and it's just like, oh no, I would have gotten that kill if they wouldn't have leveled up. So not as much. It's going to be based more on the percentage now. So definitely give us your feedback on that change. And then we have one more known issue that we wanted to call out. On certain items in game, there is a tooltip issue to where it's showing double stats on some items. That is purely visual. You're not getting two different instances of percent penetration on Rod of Tahuti. But Clumsy is working to get that fixed up as soon as we can.
Yeah, other than that, I would say it's been a, knock on wood, relatively smooth patch day. Haven't heard any major issues. I heard a couple things about some, maybe Rumble isn't working on Xbox Series S right now. Yeah. I need to investigate that a little bit more. There is one red dot you can't clear once again.
Yeah.
The
pesky notification.
So yeah, we're definitely, so far so good. Fingers crossed. But would love to hear if you've run into any bugs this morning that we should be working on, or just general feels for how the patch is looking so far. I don't know how many games people have been able to get in this morning. I've only played on dev. I've not managed to get a live game in this morning, but probably after the show I will have time to do it.
Sweet. Yeah. So we don't really have a whole lot to cover this morning, so we're gonna keep up the majority of the show for community Q&A, bug reports, feedback on anything that's happening in OB7. So just gonna open up the floor and we'll get right into it for Titan Talk today.
Yeah, you're not the only one annoyed by the profile red dot. There is one red dot that won't clear. We're looking into that. Sorry. Are you aware of the fact that new alt isn't proccing Archmage's gem? It's been bugged for 2 months. I was not aware of that.
Was not aware. I'm gonna bring up a notepad here and take some
your
notes.
handy dandy notepad.
There you go.
Cool. Will we ever bring back actives on tier 2s? So we probably won't bring back actives on tier 2s because of the way that building works. So because we put a cap on the number of actives that you can get, then I suppose we could do it only on items that build into actives. Yeah. But only on one of the items that builds into an active. So I guess theoretically we could do it in a way that you wouldn't be able to just like screw yourself unable to buy a thing until you get to the finished product, which was kind of the problem with the way we had it set up previously. I think that the other difficulty is just the way that Smite 2's items work. It's more of a smaller components that aren't a specific tree the way that Smite 1 was. So in Smite 1, it's like, okay, well, these build into 4 relatively very similar items, so putting a similar active on it could have made more sense. But here it's like, okay, if I'm going to put it on, like Odigba or something, that builds into 20 things, right? So what is a starter item for actives that would make sense to have an active,
Yeah.
and what would that active be if it becomes multiple other actives? You know, I think it's theoretically possible, but there's a lot of issues around the nuts and bolts of how you actually put it together. So
Cupid's hearts are delayed when popped on the ground as far as reflecting them that you pick them up. I know there was an issue that they were digging into with some delay, not being able to pick up the actual hearts as soon as they spawn. Maybe that's something that is kind of linked. Maybe it's a double issue, but I'm taking it down on the notepad, and we will bring that to the team.
We are also aware of the issue for some people. The game gets stuck on pre-compiling shaders. Normally, if you close and relaunch the game a couple times, it will get past where it is stuck. That is a bigger one that we forgot to mention the team is working on fixing. It isn't affecting most people, but some people get it very consistently.
Yeah.
So like my work PC gets it pretty consistently because I have like
you had to restart like 2 times for the playtest.
Yeah, I have an old work PC that just does not, doesn't keep up with the times very well. But other people don't. So. Is there a reason why you remove the red name from the color name pack? I don't know. I think that the art team just picked colors they thought were cool. We could see about adding a red color back in the future. That theoretically seems doable.
Let's see here. Can you please explain the point of this patch? I don't get it. Feels like you've just removed fun from the game and made it slow and stale for 2 weeks rather than just moving the next patch balance this week. So I think this is kind of talking about the items, the direction we're going with the item changes.
Yeah. So I would love to know how much you've played with it and what your experiences are so far. Generally, our goal for this is that carry versus carry time to kill should be a little bit longer. Carry versus tank time to kill should be about the same in this world, right? Essentially, even in the new world we're trying to get to with more specialized items, we felt like carry versus carry time to kill was just too fast. And it was much faster than Smite 1 is even at its fastest, right? It was like you would die in a fraction of a second, if you were slightly caught, and it's not that we don't want to encourage people to have bad positioning, but we know that Smite is a game that is more difficult to position properly in versus like a top-down MOBA. And you need just a tiny bit more ability to counterplay things. So the intent was to slow down carry versus carry time to kill. The intent is not to slow down carry versus tank time to kill. And it was also to slightly reduce the amount of damage that tanks are dealing because there were certain builds that could be
the bruiser items
out
got hit a
control.
little bit harder than the rest of the items.
Yeah. So I think that like this is like one step towards getting us to what we think is a more sustainable place and also a more interesting place where your builds are not just set in stone. I think it's a problem that when I'm playing the game, I frequently have inbounds build sheet open on my second screen and I am following that build, right? And if you look at like most pro builds, right, there is one build that works and maybe 1 or 2 slots that you would ever change out of that build. And I would love to have more flexibility in that to where it's like there's several builds that could be good for a character depending on how you want to build them and what you're up against. And maybe one is just generically good and one is more tuned against a specific, I think there just can be a lot more interesting things that are happening there. That doesn't answer your problem of like, why take this first step and not do it all at once? But I think that why we took the first step is because, first of all, we wanted to address the carry versus carry time to kill. We thought it was just too fast, right? And the second part is sometimes it's hard to understand how things have changed if you change too much at once, right? So I think this is a good first step that at least in dev has led to more interesting games. Obviously time to kill is a sensitive topic in this community, but it has led to more interesting games in our dev testing, at least so far. So I'm curious to see once you get used to it over a few games today and, what the reaction is to the changes. And then, we are aware that some things may not be super balanced in this, and some things might not be meeting our time to kill expectations. And if they're not, then, we will try to address that balance sooner than 2 weeks from now. But just 2 weeks from now is the bigger specialization patch.
Yeah, I heard Travis and Clumsy talking this morning about, taking some time this afternoon to get some early data. Don't spill your drink. That's what you get for not having an Alani,
Chat. I forgot my Alani in the other building, and so I had to get coffee here. So it's all that we had here was coffee.
But yeah, Clumsy and Travis were talking about getting some data this afternoon to hopefully, maybe look at another balance patch for later this week.
Yeah, we can still do an Alani check later, but I will
I will
fail the Alani check. Let's see. Odin's shield loses 15% scaling when damaged. This was removed in Smite 1. That's an interesting note. We could potentially take that away. Basically making it less punishing to be slightly damaged. Yeah. It also would change the flow to be less bird bomb reliant, I guess. Does that make sense? Have we ever considered publicly communicating what happens or showing internal playtests? It's a good question. It's a good question. There was one point in time where we talked about just like streaming our playtests every day. But we are a very open development studio, right? Like we do the show, we talk about anything. Like we don't try and hide from questions. I have seen a couple supporter shop questions. I'm sure we will get to that. Just other things have caught my eye as I look down. But I think the issue with like sharing too much of our internal dev tests is that there's a lot of stuff that we test that will never go live that people get. In the past, we've seen that the community can get really attached to ideas that maybe are fun, but don't serve the right purpose. They don't work in the long term, right? I don't even know if there's anything I want to share right now, but there's a lot of I wasn't sure that these, hopefully you're enjoying the wind sprites in Conquest. Those were something that we've been testing for a while. And I was like, I don't know if these are ever going to be cool enough to actually go into the game, but we got them into a place where I think they're really fun to play around with. And I'm excited that they're in the game now, but you had been looking at those in dev tests for like over a month and been like, either when do I get to play with those, or why are these guys wasting time on such a bad idea, right? It's like some things we just need to like cook on in private a little bit before we're ready to put it out there, even if we are ready to put things out earlier. The other thing is that like the other two reasons I would say why we probably wouldn't do it is that our studio is not solely comprised of pro players, right? There are a few former pro players on either side in our playtests. There's a few players that are pretty solid, like you and me. I'd say we're pretty solid players, right? Like we're probably like upper mid-tier, regular Smite players. And then there's a couple people that are not very good at the game, but they're either really good at like technically understanding what's going on in a playtest, or like QA, or
they worked on a feature that they want to try to
or their art. They want to look at it from like in-game from an art perspective, right? And the point of a playtest is not necessarily to be the winning team, and it's not always about balance. Like we try and get balance lessons from it, but a lot of times it's just like we're in the middle of a playtest and we just stop playing for like 30 seconds because somebody had something weird happen, and we're like, well, let's try that again. What just happened? And so it's just a very different kind of thing than what you would see watching, an inbound stream or in your own game experiences. So I think it's just like, like today we had one of our players crash and was unable to reconnect because of a new test that we were running. And it was just like, that wouldn't be great. It doesn't really help anybody to see. I mean, we had another really funny bug where our minions were dealing crazy damage to towers at the end of the game, where like I had a wave of I know how many minions I had because we now have the counter. I had a wave of 17 minions, and I was Sobek solo, and I was able to push down all the towers and the Phoenix and the Fire Giant by myself, kill everything, and get a quadra kill in the process because my minions were dealing so much damage. So there's all the time we have those weird like little dumb bugs, right, like that, where it's just like, I think that some people in the community would be able to appreciate it as this is dumb, it's fun, it's part of playtesting. But a lot of people would look at it and be like, this company's incompetent, right? Yeah. When every company goes through like bugs and interesting things that come up, because that's the point of playtesting, is to find these things before they go live. Yeah. So anyway, that was a really long answer. I'm sorry, but it was an interesting question, and it got me thinking about like what the pros and cons of it really are. Yeah. So I like questions where I get to like actually kind of try and think through things live on the show, and it's not just like that's something I've thought about a lot before. Right. So it's a good question, whoever asked that one. Every company is incompetent. I don't know. No, there's some people who are really good at their jobs, but it's more just like you don't see the sausage being made.
Right.
You just see the sausage and you're like, man, that's a good sausage, right? It's like the process sometimes can be a little bit ugly. There's this is my last note on this. You want to pick out a question so I don't just keep talking about this forever. There's a really good book called Creativity Inc., which is about the Pixar creative process. And it's kind of one of our like we are a business in the loosest sense of the word. Like we don't have a lot of like corporate training or anything. But it's one of the few things that is like kind of a corporate culture book for us. And one of the core lessons of that is that like everything sucks until it doesn't. And you have to go through the process of sucking before something will be good. And we believe in that strongly. And, Pixar believes in that. It's just, you don't see the Pixar movie sucking. You just see like, oh my God, Luca is a work of staggering genius. It's just like, or whatever your favorite Pixar movie is. So, okay, I'm done.
Cool. Let's see here. Do you guys consider a conquest queue only as one role? I know it will enhance my queue times a lot, but I played my most preferred role like 3 out of my last 10 games. Any plan? So basically just locking myself. Yeah. I'm not going to get a queue unless I get this role.
So what I've seen causes this the most is so support is the least popular role. And with the way our role system works is it tries to prioritize your top 2 roles above all else, and then your third role is kind of prioritized, right? And if you have support, which is a relatively unpopular role, as your number 2 role, you will very rarely get your number 1 role. It's a problem with our system right now. So I don't know if that's what is causing your issue. We could theoretically change it to where you can opt into waiting longer to get your preferred role. But it would be difficult because of the way that our system technically works. Because basically we find your party, and then once we have found your party, then we look at everybody's role preferences and we assign out what the roles are. We don't like say this person is queuing to play solo lane. We say this person is queuing and they're so much MMR. And then once we get a group together of similar MMRs, we're like, okay, what are your favorite roles? Yeah. So support your number 1. It hates giving you support. That is bizarre, dude. So that's it would be difficult technically. And I maybe something we could consider at some point, but probably not immediately. Yep. I would say try deprioritizing unpopular roles and see if that helps you.
Let's see here. 2 times Worshippers win. I believe we have one, not this week, but the week next week. Don't hold me to it, but I know we were planning when I was talking with Blake about getting another one because it's been a little bit since we've had 2 times Worshippers in Smite 2.
Yep. Any chance you'll ever add Hand of the Gods for early game invades? We have Sundering. Yeah. Just called Sunder. What's it called? Sundering something? Sundering Strike?
Something, yeah.
We just call it something. I just call it Sunder. But we do have Sunder, which is functionally Hand of the Gods. So if you want to try and steal away things, that would be your thing.
Yep. How are we feeling about 5 free gods plus 5 on weekly rotation?
So we've been talking about this. I think that it's something that we're talking about, I will say. Yeah. I think we agree that like having a fixed roster of free gods is probably better for new players. I'll say the thing that is very different about Smite 2 versus Smite 1 though, is that you acquire your first few god unlocks very quickly in Smite 2. And that's kind of what the system was built around, is that like every time you account level up, you're going to get a god token, right? And you get your first 10 levels in like 20 games at the top, right? So basically every couple games, you should be getting a god unlock for the beginning of your journey. I think the difficulty is that like people, when they first start playing, don't have that like sense of safety of like, oh, well, I just have Neith and Zeus and, you know, whatever, right? So I think we have been talking about it. It's something that we probably are looking to change. I don't know if it's going to happen in OB8 or OB9 or, you know, when, but it is something that's come up more and more in conversations over the past few weeks for us. So isn't that how it currently works? No, currently you get 5 gods. There are 5 gods on rotation, and then you just get god tokens. So there's no gods that are just free unlocked right now. And it's partially because we built the like rotation system when we had far fewer gods, and we were like, we weren't sure what we wanted to do, and if the gods that we wanted to have permanently free were the gods that were available at that point in time. So yeah.
Where's the New Easter event? That event will start on Monday.
Yes. And we do have to make some patches for that to work. So
yes.
it's not quite working yet. When is God Builder planned? God Builder is planned for OB8 currently. It may slip into OB9. Parts of it will definitely slip into OB9. So like the bit that will tie it to Auto Builder, because we want to make it so that you can just auto build any of these, you know, custom builds, that will definitely not be in for OB8. But phase 1, fingers crossed, will be in OB8.
Let's see here.
Is the cost for the color names a definite amount, or will we explore other prices for them? I'm just going to take this as the opportunity to talk about supporter store stuff, because there's been some questions. There were some questions about supporter store before the show started. They kind of stopped once the show started, which is why I didn't pick them. There were other things people were talking about, but I think it's worth talking about, right? So we have kind of said from the start that, well, let me back up. The community very consistently on this show was asking us for more ways to spend money in Smite 2, right? We felt like this idea of the supporter shop with a separate area that's just a few kind of account level upgrade things. It's not going to have skins in it ever. It's not going to have, you know, stuff that you can already get in the game, but just like new features to Smite 2 that are available at a higher price, that are all kind of like totally optional, meaningless show-off items, in the same way that, like, you know, I could have a Louis Vuitton bag or I could have a bag from Target, right? You know, felt like a fair way to answer people that were asking us for a way to spend more money in the game, but, you know, without like completely upsetting our whole economy and doing things in what we thought was a more skeezy way of like, here's premium skins that are worth more that you can only buy with diamonds. That felt like more of a betrayal of what we've previously talked about than having a really optional like name color feature for diamonds. In terms of the pricing itself, I agree that they are expensive. However, these were very difficult to know how to price. And what we kind of settled on is we felt like that this was a system where everyone is going to see this in every game that you play forever. Yeah. So you get a lot of value out of it versus a skin that you're only going to see on games as that god. And we also felt like the vast majority of people are only going to buy like one name color ever and then just use that for the rest of their life, right? Maybe at some point in the future they see something else that they're like, oh, I need that too. But I think the vast majority of people will be like, I like this name color. This is my favorite. And given that, we were like, well, I think it would feel really bad to charge like, you know, $20 or something for a single name, which you would kind of have to do to keep that level of like, this is like an exclusive supporter feeling item. and it was better to sell it more as like a bundle of, you get a lot of options for what you spend. And then, you can switch back and forth and you don't feel like, oh, I have to spend more money to get something else. Right. So that's all led us to the current pricing. Again, I agree. They're expensive. I don't expect everybody to buy them. I think that the other thing that's really important to keep in mind about our pricing, and you can feel how you want to feel, but we also, in the same patch that we introduced, some name color bundles that are expensive for people who wanted to support us. Mm-hmm. We also ship a Wandering Market for $10 or $5 if you have legacy gems that includes 3 skins, global emotes, like ward skins, which are a new cosmetic type, diamonds, you get diamonds back for it, right? Like, not everything is for everyone, but there is a lot of affordable content in Smite 2, more so than most other games, I would say. And part of what theoretically lets us have a lot of affordable content is having occasional expensive things for people that choose to buy them. I haven't been reading chat at all, so I will take a look in a second. The last thing I'll say before looking at chat again, though, is that in any free-to-play game, right? Like, we get people saying a lot, like, but if you charged less for this thing, a lot more people would buy it and you would make more money. I would say that has consistently been proved wrong by everything that we have done across all of our games. In every game, raising prices has just led to increased revenue for us, with very little exceptions. This was not just a pure money grab. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying it's very counterintuitive that, like, because in every free-to-play game, like, somewhere between 80 and 95% of players will never pay $1. Yeah. Never. They can play for thousands of hours. They will never give us $1. And so, like, in order for the math to work for free-to-play games, like, the remaining, 20 to 5%, depending on the game, like, have to kind of pay the way for all of the freeloaders, right? And generally speaking, we try to offer as much content as we can at a really affordable price. We introduced these couple things that are more premium priced because people were asking us for ways to spend more money in the game. If you don't think it's worth your money, then please don't buy it, right? It's okay to not buy it. I don't think anybody here will think less of you as a supporter for not buying it, right? It was just meant to be, here's this extra thing that if people wanted to spend money on, they could. I don't know if that was a decent spiel. Yeah. Did I cover it? Okay. Let's see. I will. I'm looking back here. Thank you for informing us. And like, realistically, if you're buying anything, you are supporting us.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, again, like, it's literally like 20% of players or less in pretty much every free to play game that will ever spend $1. So if you have spent $1, you are the 20%, right? So we do appreciate it, and the point of the story is not to make it feel like you're not appreciated if you don't buy this stuff. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of like this extra stuff that didn't feel like it fit with the rest of the stuff. So, it's kind of a fair point. Hold My Bong 222 says it's a flex for a reason. If it was cheap, everyone would have it, and it wouldn't be a flex. Yeah, kind of, I guess. But it's mainly just, it's supposed to be a nice thing. Can we get Max on again? Maybe we'll try and get him.
Yeah, we get him up.
I was just thinking about hitting him up and seeing if he would be on this week, because he's been doing a lot of stuff in the background. I don't know if he's ready to talk about it yet. If not, soon though.
Speaking of cosmetics, is it technically possible to give us skins for the map? Like, I could buy skins for the towers to look different, for the camps to look different, or Gold Fury, etc.
So, in theory, anything is possible. I think the difficulty is, how do you? Let me approach this from a different angle. If I buy a tower skin, right? There are 3 lanes on the map and there are 5 players. Am I changing all of the towers for myself personally? Am I changing the tower in my lane for everyone to see? Am I changing, and if I'm in duo lane, how do you pick which one am I using? If I'm in jungle, does it do anything? Like, all of these more map related cosmetics, if they're just for you personally, are a lot easier problem to solve. But we don't think people would buy them if they're just for you personally. We find consistently things that people are willing to spend money on are things that other people can see. Like, there is some underlying psychological motivator of look at me.
Yeah.
And that's why people spend money. Right. And you know, I when I opened my wallet for Archon Thanatos before I worked here, I was like, dude, this thing's cool. I want people to see me flying around as, you know, sweet Archon Thanatos, right? And it's like, if it's just changing it on your PC, is it going to be as cool, right? There have been a couple other pitches like that are like loading screens in Smite 1 were always like super undervalued because you're the only one who sees your own loading screen.
Yeah.
Nobody thought they were worth anything. We also had like, one of the artists had a pitch for, you know how like when you're dead, you get a gray screen? They were like, we could apply different post-process filters like to your screen while you're dead. So you could see like psychedelic or like tie-dye or whatever, you know, whatever. And we were like, and they were like, oh, it'd be relatively easy to do. And we're like, yeah, but I don't know how many people would buy that since it's only on their screen.
Yeah.
So,
are there any plans for more gods with substantial model changes like Aphrodite and Awelish?
I don't know beyond the next wave. We showed off the models for the next wave, and they all have like updates, to be clear, but they aren't like as big a reimaginings as those ones were. I'd have to talk with Ben and see what's planned for the next wave because I haven't really. I've been so focused on this wave right now that I haven't.
Yeah, get Ben on the show
too
soon too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Kali does also have.
Oh yeah,
quite
that's a good point. Yeah,
Kali
Kali got
She's got the skull necklace. Yeah. She's got no more high heels. She's got abs. You know, there's quite a bit of changes to her, even though, you know, she still looks like herself.
And Kali's our next release, right?
She is our next release. So 2 weeks from today, you will be playing as Kali. And if she's anything like she is in Dev, you should try and lock her in very quickly. She's very strong. Kill effects seem reasonable though. Gold dust gets dull. Yeah, maybe eventually. We've had some talk about things that you could do with kill effects. I think part of the problem with kill effects is making sure that it's not like distracting from the gameplay, right? Because there's like, so you could do some really sweet like over the top things, but it's like, do you only do that on the, like an ace kill, or a deicide, you know, whatever you want to call it, you know, or, you know, do you have to have like a simple version and a complex version? Like, I don't know, there's a lot of interesting things there. We said we were working on adding Kali's tongue. Is that still planned? I believe so. Based on the art I saw this morning, it's at least going to be in the 2D art. I don't know if it's going to be in the model. But I saw a paint over of the card art this morning that had a prominent tongue sticking out.
Seen a couple people in chat asking about Xbox crashes. I know we had something a couple weeks ago. Were we able to look into crash rates at all for Xbox specifically?
I know that they're looking into it. I don't know the current state.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Cool. Did we plan for the item specializations to come out alongside God Builder? Could see how it makes sense with the new and improved items for people to look at.
We did not, but sometimes we just luck into a good idea. And we had realized that they were going to come out at the same time like last week, and we are like, oh, that makes sense. That's a good idea. You know, and wave one of a system, you know, you always have to see how it works, right? Like, I'm sure there will be things that we will want to improve about God Builder from the version 1. I'm sure there are things that we'll want to improve about the item specialization for version 1. But like, I think the goal is always keep moving forward in the right direction, right? And if we make item building more interesting, even if it's not perfect, we have taken a step in the right direction, right? If we have made it easier to learn how to build a god, even if it's not perfect, right? We have made a step in the right direction.
Do we have an update on demo system or replays? Amateur leagues are desperate right now for it, and it's hurting us to get games.
I know we have a demo system. Like we can run replays, but I don't know if we've thought about how to share that externally.
Gotcha.
I could ask Jordan about it because we did it for.
I'm taking a note on my handy dandy
you got
notepad.
it. All right, thank you. Yeah, we can definitely take a look.
Gotcha.
What do we think about the state of tanks and mages? So I think that mages are. I will comment on the last update because we just put out an update this morning, and it takes us more than a couple hours to understand the full impacts.
I'm sure Max will have a lot of data for us later this afternoon.
When you change 120 something items, there are going to be changes. Yeah. I would say that in the last couple of updates, mages have been relatively weak, especially at killing tanks. I think that they do have strengths, though. They are very good at clearing waves. They are good at killing objectives. Sometimes depends on. They're good at securing objectives for sure, right? And I think that you still generally want to have a mage on your team. But I do agree that like in terms of player versus player killing potential versus tanks, it has been relatively weak for the past few updates. But I would say let's see how this update goes as we get a little more data on it, and then with the specialization pass, hopefully we'll start to address that a little bit more. New Q select UI win. I think that's, I want to say like OB10 is when that's scheduled for. We understand that it's not a good screen. Yeah. We kind of inherited it from our generic Rally Here backend stuff. It kind of started out as like a Rogue Company screen, and then it evolved, and it like DKO had a version of it, and then we've got a version of it now, and it's always been kind of a weak point of those games. So we just, when you've got so much stuff to do, it's hard to prioritize and pick what you want to spend your time on. And it felt like this was not the most pressing UI task on our list, but I think it's reaching the point now where it is pretty bad. It looks bad. Yeah, it looks bad. And I think it's just a bad experience too. Like, especially like if you're a new player and you like change game mode and you just see this list of things, you don't know what the hell it is. And the thing at the top is customs, right? And then it's like, and most of the screen is dedicated to customs. So am I meant to be playing custom games as a player? Is that what this game's really about? Because that's the way the screen's designed. Like when really custom should be pretty de-emphasized, and it's more of a feature that's used by like, like competitive players or content creators, or I just want to get together with my buddies for a good time, right? It's not like the primary way in which games are played. So anyway, yeah. Optimization efforts that have made in recent times. We are continuing to work on optimization. I think one of the big things that we're working on in the background right now, so we're still on Unreal 5.3, and we have a programmer in the background working on the 5.5 upgrade, and from 5.3 to 5.5 just has a lot of improvements. So that should help quite a bit. We're also continuing to work on some shader pre-caching stuff that is just the bane of UE5 games, but we're getting better at it, unless you are frozen on a black screen today, in which case that's not better for you. So we are continuing to improve there. Have we thought about an aspect for a god that changes their type from strength to magical? Let's say like an Uller aspect where he just becomes a magical god. That is something that I know Clumsy's talked about, but I don't remember what his feelings were on it. So if Clumsy's still in chat, maybe he can tell you about it.
Yep. Question people are asking about Thanatos. Thanatos will be out next Monday on the 14th.
Yep.
Alongside the Easter event.
Can we add Ward Chalice? So I will say that we do have Eye of Providence right now, which is an item that is functionally a Ward Chalice. But I know that sometimes supports don't like taking up one of their active slots for it. But I think that we wouldn't have both in the game at the same time. So we'd probably have to take out the item if we were going to put it in a ward chalice. Otherwise, it would just be like wards on wards on wards. Yeah. Will any of the cross-gen skin chests, like the one that had the Loki, return in Smite 1? I need to spend some of my Smite 1 gems. That's a good question. We can ask Flake if he could turn that on sometime. Will there be new items in the next open beta? I don't think we're planning new items, but we are planning
pretty big pass for a lot of existing items.
DLSS 4, FSR 4 when? DLSS 4 is it might just I don't know if it's in OB7.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Dale was working on it. I don't know if it got into OB7 or if it's going to be in OB8, but DLSS 4 is if it's not done, it's close to done. FSR 4, I don't think FSR 4 has been released yet, has it? I thought FSR 3 was the I think they announced FSR 4, but I don't think that it's out yet, like at least as an Unreal plugin. I could be wrong about that though. Yeah. So
are we aware of the bug that where you crash as soon as you enter a game? It happens to me 90% of the time, and it makes me miss bans or who's playing what. So this is a crash on player lobbies, match lobby.
I have seen this. It's very odd that it's happening to you 90% of the time. Mm-hmm. If you can like send me or Isiah, I don't know if you use Twitter, but maybe on Twitter, what your account name, your username is, it might help us track down a little bit what's going on because this is a thing that we're aware of, but it's been pretty scattered and not super common.
Yeah. Bug report that God spawn positions are not aligning with lane roll. We familiar with that one?
Yes. That is part. There's a list of things that are that need to be updated there. I'm pretty sure that was on the list.
Cool.
Like the order of names as well. Gotcha. Is one thing that we're aware of. I like this idea still. We should talk to the designers about this. Would you consider incentivizing ward placement with a small amount of gold for each enemy ping?
Oh, nice. That's cool.
So I thought that was a cool idea. So we should talk to the design about it. I should never have mentioned that we were working on Baron Aspect because now Chad asks us about Baron Aspect every time.
Yeah.
I think that like the idea for Baron Aspect just didn't work. We thought that it was going to feel great and it did not.
Yeah.
So it's been a little bit more on the back burner because of that until they come up with a new or better idea. I'm not sure who has aspects in the next update. I know that on Friday you will get Cerberus Aspect and on Monday you will get Poseidon Aspect.
Right.
10 gold per ping. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what the right amount of gold would be. I don't know how many pings do you think the average ward?
That's a good point.
That's a good question.
Let's see. On top of demos and replays, will there ever be ways to spectate live ranked matches again, or access to ranked replays?
If I don't know, probably not in the immediate term, but theoretically it's doable.
Cool.
Oh, these are some good aspect ideas. Make his 1v1 line and half cooldown.
Okay.
But how would you pick which line to use? That's the question. And make it swap back and forth. That'd be annoying. And there's another one that was make his 3 pass-through players and root everything that it hits, but at a low duration. So I guess it wouldn't be a ramp to.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. These things may be strong, but those are interesting ideas. Place 2 wards at the tower line to gain as much cash as possible. See, this is why we can't have nice things, chat. You guys come up with ways to exploit it before it's even on the battlefield. I'm going to say this one again. This is the Xbox can't press the center Xbox while in queue to see other friends online without stopping the queue. This is currently by design and programming intent because we were getting a lot of failed lobbies from people like leaving the game. and we don't know if you've actually left the game once you've opened the center Xbox button menu. All we know is that you've opened that menu and then you disappear to us, basically. So their solution to solve this was to make it so that it takes you out of queue so that we didn't have as many failed queues from Xbox people just disappearing. I play a lot on Xbox, and this annoys me, but I think it is a good reason. I don't know if there's a better solution, and if we just have to accept that more queues are going to fail because Xbox players really want this, or if we need to accept that this is bad for getting queues to pop. So
let's see here. Will our personal item builds from the God Builder be eligible for auto build?
Not in OB8, but shortly thereafter. Cool. Yes. We have too much coming in too hot to be able to get the auto build part in for OB8, almost certainly. But that is the plan, is that you will be able to basically you'll be able to pick, like at the beginning screen where it's like pick which auto build you want. The thought is that we would show you kind of like your favorited ones there. And
oh,
you
that's
pick
cool.
Which one you wanted. So that is the goal.
Can we change how shield is displayed on the health bar? I think it would convey the amount of the shield much better if the shield bar would extend from the right over the health bar.
I think I'm not familiar enough with how it's currently displayed to be able to comment on that, but I will break my phone and I will take a picture of that because the wording of that one is more than I can quickly take down. Okay.
How often, when designing a god, do you consider their synergization? Is that a real word? Their synergy with another god's kit. I was super disappointed in Smite 1 when Martigarus' stealth bonus wasn't applied when a new Wafog, for example.
I would say we generally try and think of how gods interact, but there's almost always some side case interaction that we didn't think of, or else in one way or another, either we didn't think about it to include it, or we didn't think about it and then it led to an unfun situation. Yeah. And so we had to hard code it out. I don't know which of these cases Martigarus was. Martigarus was a very short dev cycle for us. So I would guess it's more likely that we just never thought of that. Yeah. I couldn't tell you for sure what it was. But we do think about how gods work together. Ultimately, Smite is a game about teamwork. And a large part of what makes Smite good is having kits that work together and work against each other in really interesting ways. Yeah. So I think that Smite's kits are one of the strongest parts of Smite. Because I think that the gods are fun to play. They manage to be diverse, but easy enough to understand what's going on. It's not like I need to play against a god 5 times before I understand what they're doing, and they just intertwine in interesting ways. So shake and bake Fenrir. Is he just is he fried chicken? He's just a piece of fried chicken. I see I've seen a couple people I think actually asking about pride badges, which we did have in Smite 1. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't think it's been on our to-do list so far. I do think that we will probably not bring back the flag badges ever. Not pride flag, but the country flag badges, because I think people read way too much into that historically, and generally it has not gone well for us. I would say, because at one point in time we just added all of our most popular countries, and then it was but why not my country? But why not my country? Why not my country? And then it just became this big thing, and then it's well, why don't you have this country? Are you making a political statement? It's no, dude, we did these 10 years ago, and we didn't do one for that time because there weren't players from that country at that time asking for it. So I think that's just it's just a political bag of worms that we probably don't want to get into. But I don't have a strong feeling about the pride flags. Maybe at some point we'll get around to those. Yeah, I liked having the Italian flag.
Yep.
Somebody likes their Scotland flag, but I think it's just like, I don't know, man. The world's so weirdly political right now. It's just like maybe not a time we want to be in. Kindly check a mythological creature that would fit perfectly in Smite 2. It's called Kieran. I'm familiar with the Kieran.
As a Monster Hunter player, I am super familiar with Kieran.
Yeah. I believe that there might even be I've mentioned this before. We have a slideshow of like hundreds of different god ideas. I'm pretty sure that there is a Kieran slide on there that people have wanted Kieran to be a god. And I know that there's also been pitches over the year for it to be like an NPC boss or a camp boss or something. So it's definitely happened.
When are the matchmaking changes in all caps? I know Max has been working really hard on a few more updates. Were there any matchmaking changes in OB7? I know we had some in OB6.
I think OB7 might have actually gotten the party ELO range stuff in. So you should now not be able to queue for ranked if your party's too far range apart. And then I know, sorry, I'm trying to think back. I want to say on Friday night is when we got a bunch of the features that we were waiting on for matchmaking. And I don't know if Max has had time to look at those yet. Max is West Coast, so he still might be waking up this time of day. But I know we do have new matchmaking tech that showed up on Friday.
Cool.
So hopefully that will lead to the next steps. We think that matchmaking is actually pretty solid right now for people that aren't in the top percentiles and the bottom percentiles. Like if you're a really good ranked player, or if you're new to ranked or new to a queue, or just not a very good player, which is okay. You know, it's all right to not be good at the game. I have games where I'm not very good at the game.
Likewise.
That's where you have the worst experience. Isn't it 7 p.m. for Max? No. Max is West Coast. He's like, what is it? It's 2:00 here, so it'd be like 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
There? Yeah. So he's actually been up for a little while, but it is always hard to do my math about what's going on the West Coast. No, he is not UK. He is Canadian. That's as much details as I will give out about Max. I don't know. That is an interesting question. Regarding item specializations, how will Mercury feel coming into Smite 2 with the lack of movement speed items? That is interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but that sounds like an interesting problem for us to solve when we get there. I think the problem with movement speed items is that they're just like universally amazing, right? And players don't feel that they're amazing. And so if players don't value something, it's almost like, why do it? Because then only people that are doing things that don't feel good are getting the benefit, right? It's like it's this counterintuitive thing. It's like when Nike was like one of the most winning gods in the game and nobody believed
nobody knew it. Yeah,
but it's because she had like that 3% movement speed, whatever, for everybody. It's just such a powerful hidden stat that it's not something that I super want to like bring back in a ton of ways, but it is an interesting question for Mercury in particular. How do you make him still be got to go fast guy? Yeah. So it's good thoughts. When is Mercury coming? We haven't announced, but it just is an interesting question that I had not thought about. So
let's see here. Are we willing to bring more mechanics to abilities like Ymir's terrain shake when hitting yourself when hitting the ground? This brings more immersiveness.
So yes, but the thing is that we have gotten consistent feedback that when we do too much of that it makes the game more, I guess it's like there's a tough balance between like immersiveness and like
readability and gameplay clarity.
And like not tiring as a multiplayer game. Like there's a reason why most multiplayer games keep things pretty clean, and even like games that like Overwatch does like the screen shake when you jump, like when you land, but it doesn't do a lot of screen shake for other things. And I think it's like you have to find the right moments to do it when it will actually improve the feeling of immersiveness of the game versus just kind of be this overwhelming, everything is at 11 all the time, which was kind of one of the problems with our initial version of Smite 2. We went too hard on it. It was on not every ability, but almost every ability had some kind of, ground shake distortion type effect. And it was overwhelming.
Let's see here. Any plans to add rideable gods in the future, like letting teammates mount Chiron?
That's an interesting
Oh,
idea.
that's funny.
We do have an interact button now, so anything's possible. Let's see. Charon bow. Yeah, I think that's the one that comes up the most. I think that when we get around to Charon, we'll have to think about how to address that feedback, and if we want to address that feedback of like, I know that like there was a group of people that were upset that, I think that he's still a really fun god to play, and he's very interesting. He does unique new things in the game, but there was a vocal contingent of players who were like, but we wanted to ride the boat. And I think we felt like a lot of the ways that we had thought of how to do that we just feel really close to Horus, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, is that interesting? Even if it's different, it would have felt kind of similar to that. That was also like when we made Heimdall. Heimdall was another god that people were like, but I should be able to ride the Bifrost with him. It's like, sure, but
Let's see. Can we add trackers to abilities and items that show how much this game they dealt damage, heals prevented, and other interesting stats? Would be great for build crafting.
Yeah, well, that is on our to-do list. We are tracking all that stuff by item, but it just is a wave of work that we feel like we have other more important things to get through first. I see people are coordinating to ask a question of any plans on limiting matchmaking so that new players can't get paired with level 30 plus accounts. Matchmaking does prioritize that you will get matchmade for. Well, let me rephrase this. For casual queues, matchmaking does prioritize that you will get matchmade with people that are lower level accounts. I don't remember exactly what the threshold is. It might not be 30, but it does prioritize that. At certain times of day, in certain regions, on certain game modes, there just might not be that many people that are lower level. So they may end up in higher level games. Yeah. The other thing that can cause that to happen is if somebody has a very high elo in those kind of lower level games, right? Where it's hard for the matchmaker to make them a match against other new players because they're just killing the new players, right? So it does happen sometimes, but it shouldn't happen that much outside of like low pop regions at low pop times. What patch is the final assault map planned for? No, not set in stone yet. We're kind of still taking feedback. We just put out the newest revision today.
I saw a couple people in chat saying that they're actually really digging the new update.
Yeah, I know that like chat was kind of mixed last time about taking away the side paths in particular, but I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. Any update on auto attack quality of life stuff? We are still working on some auto attack stuff. I know there were a few gods in particular that they're looking at, and just in general, it's something that we're aware of that can be better. But I don't have like a firm update for you beyond that.
Let's see, cross-gen skins are almost done. What's the plan for the number of skins now? More classic skins each update, or more new skins?
I would say we're not as close to being done with cross-gen skins as you might imagine. I think we still have like 12 left.
We've got a good bit.
Some of them are for gods that we just don't have yet, though.
True.
So, so we do still have to keep those going for a while. My expectation is that we will do more new skins than more classic skins. We feel like we want to keep the classic skin wave going to some extent, right? Because we want to make sure people have something to spend their legacy gems on. But something like I don't have the exact number in my head, but I want to say it's like 96% of all classic skin purchases are for legacy gems, and ultimately we need to put out enough content that makes money for us to stay in business, right? So we are, I think we want to make sure that we keep putting out classic skins, but if we have more skin bandwidth open up, it'll probably go towards more new skins that could, facilitate new events and stuff.
Cool. All right. Well, we are at 2:00
already.
So it's time for
one more question.
And then I'm going to go play a live game with OB7.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Try and get a Cerberus
if I don't
game in.
have a meeting, I will go do that.
Let chat fill up. Alani check first. Fair. I've got Orange Kiss. Kilgoon, unfortunately, does
Just
not have
coffee
an Alani
today. Yeah, I forgot to grab an Alani. I will kind of say that we are in this Titan Talk room for I don't know how much longer.
I know, right? We're going to be moving soon.
We're going to be moving.
Yeah.
We have moved to a different, like the rest of the studio has moved to a different building across the street.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bigger space for us, actually. I think it's a bigger, nicer building, and it is not the building where we have our Titan Talk room. So we're going to be moving our room across the street sometime over the next few weeks. So you will have a new background.
Yep.
But we'll still keep doing the show. We might, worst case scenario, we'll miss like a day or so with the move, but we'll keep you posted on how that's going. So,
all right, let me find a good question to close out the show with.
Yeah, I screwed up the Alani sponsorship today. I'm sorry, guys. I emailed. Have I told chat this?
I don't think you have. Yeah.
I went on LinkedIn and I found like the Alani like VP of marketing, and I was like, dude, let's do this. And ghosted, no response. I'm like, come on, man. We sent the Alani sponsorship money on a new office. Yeah, that's what happened. My guess is that it's more that Alani just got sold for $1.8 billion to Celsius. So the person I messaged maybe isn't even involved with it anymore, and I need to reach out to somebody at Celsius. But it was just a fun thing that I was trying to make happen.
My question: did you plan to reintroduce the God lore text from Smite 1 to Smite 2? The new ones are a little bit less interesting in terms of information on the characters and their stories. Plus, they aren't present on the website. So we are working on the Gods page on the website, so that's no longer there. So that's a good shout. But I know we are still writing the full lore pages. I'm not sure what the character limit is in game.
Yeah,
that might be what you're seeing there. Because we shortened them.
I know that we did intentionally make the decision to make them slightly different for Smite 2. I think it's partially the amount of space that we have to put them in game, and I think it's. I don't remember what the other reasoning behind it was, but I don't really have too much more on that. Will battle passes make a return? So this is not going to be my question. I'll take another one. But we have a system right now in game called Wandering Markets, and Wandering Markets is basically battle passes. It's that same purpose in the game's ecosystem where you pay $10 to get the thing, you play games. You unlock stuff from the battle pass. The benefit is that they don't go away, so you can keep working on your Wandering Markets forever. And you're earning currency to pick and choose which things you want to unlock from the Wandering Market. So you can say, I only want these things, and then I'm going to save up my currency for the next one so that I can get stuff from that one more quickly. You can say, I want everything. And if you say you want everything, it'll take you about the same amount of time as it took for a Smite 1 Battle Pass, right? So we think it's just a better system for players all around. So far, players have been showing us that they agree. Like the first one had really good sales for our perspective. So we're hopeful that the one that went live today, Tiny Tales, will also perform well. So, and
your real question this time.
My real question. I gotta pick a good one. I feel like I don't like to end on like monetization. Questions. It's like, do we think 4 global emote slots is the maximum, or are we open to adding more in the future? So, the maximum is 6, based on the way that our VGS mappings work, especially on console. We are capped to 6. We had thought about using, like, basically just making this bundle be all like basically like 5 more slots. But we decided to just make it be 4 total slots because there has been some discussions internally about like, do we do other special kinds of global emote type things that would fit into that menu that you would want a button for, or, you know, like that kind of thing. And we didn't want to use up all of our button assignments at once. So, so theoretically we can have 6 global emote slots in the future, and we might just add those other 2 at some point, or we might say we're going to use them for a different purpose that is adjacent to global emotes, but not exactly the same.
Cool. All right, Kilgoon, thanks so much for joining for the Monday edition of Titan Talk. I saw Jithin's in chat, and that reminded me, Smite Prime is back this weekend.
Smite Prime!
He sent me a message, so I'm just going to read it.
Okay.
Hey, Smite fans, Smite Prime is back with an open circuit tournament series for Smite 2 starting April 12th. You can compete for both diamonds and cash prizing. So it begins on April 12th at 11 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be 5v5 North America Conquest. There are going to be 3 weeks of open bracket plus 1 week of closed bracket. For the open brackets, it's single elimination format, best of 1. Closed bracket is going to be double elimination, best of 1 with the best of 3 finals. They're also going to be streaming select matches on the Smite Prime Twitch channel. So, hey, if you want to get in on some competitive action, Smite Prime has been a super long-standing community tournament series in the Smite universe. So definitely, you know, want to play some games, get a team together, maybe get on stream and, you know, get your game casted and stuff like that. It's going to be a really good time. So if you're interested in playing competitive, Smite Prime is back this weekend. So definitely keep an eye out. You can go to smiteprime.com for more information. There's a Twitter account. There's a Discord server where everything's going to be happening. So definitely keep an eye out for that for kicking off this weekend.
And I will say, like, getting to play Smite with a full group of people in a more competitive setting, even if you're not very good, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like we used to do like this annual Titan Forge tournament where we kind of got split off into teams, and like I said, not everybody at Titan Forge is great at Smite, right? Like we have some people that are really good, we have some people that are not very good, right? And even the people that weren't very good just got like so much more into the game by participating in it, and had such a good time. So I strongly encourage you to participate in some kind of competitive. If you're watching this show, you probably care enough about the game that you should give it a try at some point. So.
Sweet. Well, chat, thanks so much for hanging out with us on Monday. Hop in to Smite 2, get some games in for OB7. Leave us your feedback on Cerberus, the item changes, the Assault dev test, all the great stuff. We're going to be keeping an eye out on everything. Shoot us your bug reports as usual as well.
Yep. Head
over to our official Discord if you want to engage with the community and, you know, leave some feedback there as well. But until then, we will see you all on the battleground. Hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Peace.